God was there the whole time by MultiGen Mindset Institute. There is a question many people carry quietly in their hearts, a question that comes up in moments of waiting, in moments of uncertainty, and especially in moments where prayer feels unanswered. This question is, where was God? People ask this when relief doesn't arrive on schedule, when the outcome they hope for doesn't appear the way they expected, when silence feels louder than response. But what if the question itself is slightly off? What if the real issue was never God's absence, but our inability to see what was already present? The Bible makes a statement that is both comforting and unsettling. Your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. That single line changes everything about how prayer works. If God already knows what you need, then prayer is not about informing God. And if God already knows, then unanswered prayer does not automatically mean neglect. So what is prayer doing? Prayer is not pulling God towards us. Prayer is aligning us to what is already available. Here is the doctrine plainly stated. God was there the whole time. The provision was there the whole time. The answer existed before the prayer even finished. The delay was not in heaven. The delay was in perception. This is difficult for people to accept because it removes the comfort of blame. It is easier to believe God is withholding, or God is testing you, or God is silent, than it is to consider that you may not be yet able to see clearly. But Scripture repeatedly points to this truth. God does not disappear. Provision does not vanish. Answers do not evaporate. What changes is the state of the receiver. Most people think unanswered prayer means nothing is happening, but more often, something has happened, and the person praying is not yet in a state to recognize it. Fear narrows vision. Desperation collapses awareness. Anxiety locks perception into a single outcome. And once the mind says, if it doesn't come this way, it doesn't exist, then everything outside that narrow channel becomes invisible. But God does not operate through a single channel. Provision does not always announce itself, and answers are not obligated to arrive in the form we pre-decide. Very often, the answer is present, but the person asking is not yet available to receive it. This is where responsibility enters, not as blame, but as maturity. God does not override perception. God does not force awareness, and God does not violate human consciousness. Instead, God waits, not because He is distant, but because clarity cannot be forced. There are moments where God is waiting for someone to calm their internal state, stop interpreting fear as truth, release panic-based meaning, and take responsibility for their inner condition. And the moment that happens, the answer becomes visible. Nothing new was sent, nothing new was created, only awareness returned. Prayer is not begging heaven to move. Prayer is tuning the receiver like a radio signal. The station already exists, the broadcast is already live, but interference blocks reception. When the inner state is chaotic, the signal sounds silent. When the inner state stabilizes, the signal becomes obvious. The prayer didn't create the answer. The prayer helped remove the noise. There is a principle sometimes described as the law of tone. It can be summarized simply. You don't receive what you ask for. You receive only what you're aligned with. This does not mean pretending. It does not mean forced positivity. It does not mean denial of reality. It means internal congruence. When someone emotionally and perceptually enters the state of the answer, calm instead of panic, trust instead of fear, clarity instead of collapse, They often discover the answer was already there. They didn't summon it. They recognized it. God does not delay awareness to punish. God delays awareness because receiving without awareness does not mature the soul. Awareness without responsibility does not last, and clarity requires readiness. God is not trying to prove power. God is cultivating discernment. The goal is not dependency. The goal is sight. Many people eventually experience a quiet realization. They look back and see that they were not abandoned. They were not ignored. They were not forgotten. They were simply unable to see clearly at the time. Once clarity returned, so did peace. That realization is not shame, it's awakening. So if you are waiting, if you are praying, if you are wondering where God is, consider this possibility. God is not late, God is not distant, and God is not withholding. God was there the whole time. The provision was there, the answer was there, the path was there. And the moment clarity returns, you may discover that nothing was missing except the ability to see it.